Let me ask you something. Have you ever finally gotten a moment to yourself? Like you sit down, you grab your phone, and you start scrolling for a second. And maybe that feels like relief. And then you look up maybe 5 minutes later, 10, 15, and somehow you really don't actually feel better. Your body still feels tight and your mind is still racing. Maybe your patience is still somehow thinner than before. And you're left thinking, what is wrong with me? Why didn't that help? Because you took a break, right? But here's the truth that completely changed how I understand rest and honestly, how I show up as a parent. That break didn't help because it wasn't actually giving my nervous system what it needed. And I want to say this right at the beginning. This is not about blaming yourself for scrolling. It's not about telling you to throw your phone away. It's not even about adding one other thing to your plate that's already so full. Because the reality is, when you feel overwhelmed, touched out, and overstimulated, we grab the fastest form of relief available. And in today's world, that's often and usually our phone. This isn't about willpower or discipline. It's definitely not about doing rest wrong. What it is about understanding something most of us were never ever taught, that not all breaks regulate our nervous system. Some breaks help us escape, but they don't actually help you recover. And your body really does know the difference, even if your mind doesn't. So, in today's episode, we're going to really unpack why this happens and really why scrolling can feel like relief, but leave you just as drained. We're going to talk about the difference between escaping your stress and actually completing the stress response, and what your nervous system is actually asking for instead in these moments when you feel like you need a break. Because once you understand this, you stop chasing breaks that don't work. And then you start giving your body something that actually changes how you feel. Let's dive into this week's episode. So, what is actually happening in our body? I want to start this off and preface this by saying let's remove all guilt because there's no guilt in my podcast. Okay. When I say something, there's no guilt or shame attached to it. You are not broken. Your brain is not broken. You're not bad at resting. Okay. We just never actually been taught how to fully rest our nervous system. We think that sitting down on the couch and scrolling or turning our brain off in that matter is what really does start giving us some rest. But that's not the case. You're responding, though, exactly how a dysregulated person is wired to respond. You go into fight or freeze and you shut down. You're looking for the fastest dopamine hit. And then often that comes from scrolling on our phones or looking for a distraction of some sort. So often we feel overwhelmed, we grab our phone, we think makes us feel better. It often doesn't, right? We often instead start zoning out or numbing. And really, our nervous system isn't asking for distraction. What it's really asking for is completion of whatever is stressing you out in that moment. So what does that look like? What does it actually look like to complete the stress response? Before I go further on what that looks like, and before we talk about escape versus restoration, I just want to share with you a story. Okay. Everybody grabs their phone. If you have a phone, I'm sure you grab your phone to scroll, myself included. And there was a period of my life when I was in a functional freeze mode. And I've spoken about this a little bit before, but when I was in my functional freeze mode, my device that I would go to would be my Kindle, right? I would go and I would read my smutty romance novels and turn off and just do that for hours so that I could feel like I was taking a rest. And when I was finished reading, I'd say, "Ugh, I don't feel rested. I don't feel rested." I would just be more aggravated and more frustrated. And what the heck is going on? And it's not until years later now that I fully understand the nervous system and what was actually going on is that I was looking for distraction. I got the distraction, but I didn't actually heal anything in that moment. And this is why healing and understanding what's going on in those moments is so important. Often what we do is escape instead of try to actually restore our nervous system. So there's a key distinction between what escaping is and what restoration is. And we're going to dive into what that looks like because there's a fine line of what that looks like. So, escape often avoids internal discomfort. Okay. You maybe have distracting your attention a little bit. Escape often keeps that stress cycle open and that loop continuing to go. Whereas restoration of the nervous system processes and completes the stress. So it signals to your body that it's finally safe to relax, and it changes how you feel. It changes your physiological state in that moment. So one doesn't change state and the other changes state. One keeps you in that elevated response and the elevated activation, and one allows your nervous system to fully feel restored and ready to go. So, yeah, you may hide in the bathroom for 5 minutes and still come out fully overstimulated. I do that often, even to this day. And if we don't break the state of our body, it's actually not fully restoration. And that's what our goal is when we're trying to rest our nervous system. So, really, when we're scrolling, here's really why it doesn't work. Okay. So, the dopamine that we get from scrolling, maybe we got some likes or some followers or whatever, maybe we saw a video we really liked, it does not make your nervous system regulated. It gives us a quick hit of dopamine or a quick hit of novelty, and it gives us that temporary distraction, but it does not make regulation. What happens in these moments is cortisol, our stress hormone cortisol, remains elevated. Our brain stays in alert mode, and our nervous system does not end up completing that stress response cycle. This is why scrolling can feel like relief, but it actually is just pausing without actually feeling or healing. Again, this is not about demonizing scrolling, but what it is about actually understanding what our body needs instead in those moments. So doing something like a quick restoration before you start scrolling can allow you to close that stress response, still have that dopamine spike if you're looking for it, but feel more restorated after you are completed. So, just like we spoke about escape and restoration, there is a difference between passive regulation and active regulation, right? So, the passive regulation is the scrolling, it's the zoning, it's the numbing out. It doesn't shift state. There's no state shift. You're the same as when you first started to when you finish that. Maybe you're even elevated. Whereas active regulation, it engages the body, breath, and awareness. So, we're engaging our body, we're understanding what's going on with our breath, we're aware of what's around us. And this truly changes the nervous system state. So regulation really does require a physiological participation, something where you are actually fully ingrained in understanding and knowing what's going on in your body. Doesn't require mental distraction, which is what the scrolling does. And that's really the key why scrolling doesn't work. Scrolling doesn't work to restore your nervous system. So some really quick, accessible ways for moms, because we're super busy, to restore their nervous system instead of scrolling. Maybe 60 seconds of slow breathing. Okay. All it takes is a minute. It's less time than what you're going to do for scrolling. You can shake out tension, or if you have a vibration plate, those are pretty popular. You can do it on that as well. Stepping outside and having a deep inhale, amazing for the nervous system. One that I love to do is place a hand on my chest and really connect my body to my mind and my breath and just breathe and connect myself deeply in those moments to restore myself. Okay, so regulation, it's not about stopping, it's about shifting. And that's the key here. We're shifting our physiological response through the physiological participation. So you may be asking, okay, I scroll. We all do. Okay. I'm scrolling and I don't know how to stop and I want to implement this new thing, but how do I actually complete the stress cycle response? Here is the differentiation, okay? This is where we can stop that loop from happening. Our stress cycle must complete for our nervous system to feel safe and settled. It has to, right? If it doesn't, it continues to loop. You're going to continue to feel elevated. You're going to continue to feel nervous system discomfort, dysregulation. You're going to continue to react. You're going to continue to feel activated. We need it to complete so that we can feel rested and that our nervous system can finally feel safe. What completion really does look is maybe a physical release in our body. Maybe our shoulders soften. Maybe our breath shifts. You can feel an instant shift in your breath. your emotional processing, you're back online. You're able to emotionally process what's going on. And there's no more activation. You don't feel like you're in that like having to fight, flight, or freeze. The activation is gone. This is when you know that your nervous system has been completed in that stress response. If you don't close that stress response, it's like opening a loop in your body that never gets closed. And we're always seeking for our body to feel closed in that and feel safe. If it doesn't get closed, this is where we find ourselves as parents like snapping faster, or when little things feel so big, or why the breaks really don't stick. Because we're in that constant loop when it's not closed. So really, at the end of the day, our body really isn't asking for a break, but what it's asking for is to finish what we started. And isn't that the key to life? Finish what we start. So I've created a couple things that can help you feel more restorated. So these are regulating breaks that we can do during the day. Something like I've designed my 90-second nervous system reset exactly for busy moms, because I'm a busy mom, you're a busy mom. We need to have resetting opportunities that don't take us hours upon hours upon hours and don't require us to sit down and meditate and all the things, right? Sometimes you don't have that time. I don't have that time all the time, right? So I've created something for a 90-second nervous system reset. So you can reset your nervous system in 90 seconds or less. I'm going to link that in my show notes. Oh my gosh, it is so transformational. I use it on the daily. I just used it the other day when I was in the car and feeling really triggered with my kids in the back because they weren't getting along. I just did a couple of the things from a 90-second reset, and oh my God, the rest of the afternoon felt so great because I was able to regulate instead of react in that moment. So I'm going to link that for you in the show notes because it's so transformational. You can also do little things like slowly inhaling for 4 seconds and then doing a longer exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. That really does slow down your system and allow you to really go back into your body. Standing and stretching with your arms overhead, moving your body that way, shaking your hands and your shoulders. So that releases so much nervous system tension. Think about it like say you're a gazelle, right? And you're being chased by a lion and you didn't get eaten for dinner by the lion. And you're like, whoa, that was such a big like nervous system insight there, right? And in that moment, that gazelle shakes it off and moves on. They shake out their tension, they shake it out, and they close that loop on their nervous system so they can go and graze the grass and go get water outside of the threat that just happened. Same for us. We can equate the same. Shake your body out. Shake your body out, shake your shoulders out, go outside, get some fresh air. These are regulating breaks that are so quick and so easy to do at any given moment. Like I said, if you do them right before you start scrolling or right after, really does solidify that closing loop of the nervous system. You don't need more time. What you need is a different input. And this gives you the different input to do those regulating breaks in. So really, honestly, at the end of the day, you're not failing at rest. You just were never really truly taught what true and real restoration looks like in your body. And as you start putting some of these into practice, you're going to really understand and feel what that restoration looks like in your body. So when you learn to regulate, truly regulate instead of escaping, this is when everything changes in parenting. Your patience, your parenting, your presence, everything shifts when we have true regulation instead of escaping. Honestly, if this episode shifted something for you, please don't stop here. I have so many other episodes on nervous system regulation and motherhood and conscious parenting and breaking cycles and generational patterns. Check out, if you're on Spotify, iTunes, I'm on YouTube as well. Check out the episodes that resonate most with you. Again, I will link the 90-second nervous system reset in the show notes. And this is the exact tool that I use to move through overwhelm and to feel really grounded. And I'm so excited to be able to share it with everybody. You can start using it today, honestly, in real life parenting moments. And I would love to hear what kind of resonates with you with that. And please share this episode with a mom who maybe be scrolling to escape, because this might change everything for her. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Legacy Shift podcast, and I will see you next week.